I got my pussy in the way here, so you'll have to excuse me. Um, I've disabled the chat function for this short video. This is the Niven update. This is the Niven update to the Mount Meru suggestion that you'll have to excuse me for being a little bit slow with all of this right now, but that what we have here, my friends, is a possible sighting of Mount Meru. Okay, so what I set you up with earlier, that doesn't sound very nice. Not set you up, but what I've been suggesting, we are on Google Earth, and we've been looking at Mount Kilimanjaro. Because this is the world's highest freestanding mountain, and you know, when you look at this, it is quite obviously a candidate for a super tree. It's known to the locals as the roof of Africa. If this was once a giant tree, then this would have been a sort of sucker, a subsidiary or a nearby tree. And I'm also going to, I've got my directions off a little bit here now, and suggest that what you see the mountain here, then perhaps this area here, which is about 100 miles away from here, is all known as the Kilimanjaro region. It could be that this is the tree stump, right? It could go on further, but all of this is up at around 1,500 meters, up to 2,000 meters high. All of this region. So I don't know if you can see my pointer, but this region here is at 2,000 meters high. So it kind of fits the bill as a potential tree stump. Obviously I'm being creative with my thinking here, and hopefully you can do the same. Sorry about my pussy, really. She is after me for a little bit of strokage. As I said, I've cut the chat for this one because I just don't want to be distracted right now. I've got to get rid of my cat, and I need to just fly through this because your time is valuable. So, you know what I've been thinking about is that, what sparked this off, wasn't it, was the fact that there is a people in this region here known as the Meru. Their language is Meru. They're an extensive tribal group. From the information I can glean from the internet, this region of the world has been kept in a state of sort of perpetual hardship and conflict. The British Empire has been flecking around here since our history started. So let's allow for them to have gotten in here and fiddled with whatever information we can access. But I was kind of this man-made border here, this line here is the line into Kenya, and just over here is Mount Kenya National Park, which is actually in the region that's now known as the Meru. The province is called Meru. The people of the Meru tribe are here. It's about 100 kilometers, I think, from Kilimanjaro herself. Now, Kenya actually means, well, there's a number of different meanings, but obviously the word Kenya is an English word, and it would have been given to these people, but it would have been a derivative of some tribal word from back in the day. Oh my lord, my battery's already low. 1 second. 1 second. I do apologize for the delay. I just need to put a battery in. It's amazing. My battery was on 50% when I started, and in just minutes, it's like it's down to 20, sub 20. Yeah. Hopefully that keeps me in the game a little bit longer. I do apologize for the technical skills. All right, so the Meru region is here, and this is another beautiful mountain. I think it's probably the third highest mountain in Africa. Possibly, not probably. I mean, it is, as far as I remember. And you know what is interesting about this is that it's actually on the equator. It's on the equator. You know, it's depending on where you go, I can find myself to be at 0. So you know you're right on the equator. Yes, so that has to be held as a possible candidate for this Mount Meru. But and something else that's interesting about this this Mount Kenya is that not that I'm a follower of the royals, but doing a little bit of research today, I found out that this mountain is where Willie, the prince, apparent prince, is said to have what's the word? Proposed or whatever, or got engaged to Kate Middleton. And if you look at some of the stories that go around some of these amazing lakes that they have here, there's a story that there was a crash of a plane or a helicopter in one of these beautiful tarns, one of these lakes. I forget the name of it right now, but if you're that interested, you can go and look it up. But they said the lake was said to be 70 meters deep, but what was interesting for me was that at the bottom of the lake was a vortex or a whirlpool sucking the water down into the earth. I mean, obviously they don't say that, but it is interesting. But that's not really why I brought you here, my friends. I've got something far more interesting to show you. So that, I mean, Kenya is a possible because Mount Kenya because it has the Meru people, the region of Meru and the Meru people. But we're only just down the road from the big Tamale herself, you know, Mount Kilimanjaro herself, right? And here's Mount Kilimanjaro coming back into view just over here. And as I said, I would think that this, if it's the case that this was a tree felled, then the tree would have been felled possibly this way, and Zanzibar even could be a part of the tree. You know, that's 400 kilometers, that distance there. But you know, I'm not going to make too much about that. But I was looking around the neighborhood from Mount Kilimanjaro and looking at the other hillocks, and I came across Arusha National Park here. Yeah, Arusha National Park. I thought, oh yeah, this is probably a tree stump too. Not quite as impressive as Mount Kilimanjaro, but if this was a tree stump, then possibly the tree could have fallen this way. I don't know. But anyway, I went and had a little butcher's hook down at Arusha National Park. And what did I find? Mount Meru. What's that? Mount Meru. Now, Mount Meru, I mean, this blows the mind, really, doesn't it? I mean, we're sitting around this monstrous ridge here, which is up at 4,500 meters, and you know, I could speculate this could have been part of a tree, too. You know, this actually could be the remains of a tree too. But I'm just fascinated by Mount Meru. I mean, everybody's out looking in this North Pole, alleged North Pole, which I'm starting to wonder doesn't even really exist. I think that the North Pole may be disinformation or misdirection. As I've said in my earlier videos, I think that Northern Canada, Northern Europe, and Northern Russia and China are actually embedded in the Antarctic ring, what we know as the Antarctic Circle, and that the center of the Earth is somewhere nearer the equator, and probably Africa, meaning, you know, the land from where we come, or something like that, might well be the true center of the Earth. Some of the other contributors to my earlier videos, and Gracie comes to mind, have also suggested that, you know, when you look at Uhuru and Uluru, which is in the, you know, Red Rock in Australia, that, you know, each of these continents has their own tree or trees of life, family trees, and so, you know, there would have been, in a continent the size of Africa, more than one family tree. You know, that makes a lot of sense. And when you look at Table Mountain and you look at some of the other vast mountains like this, then we've got to allow for the possibility that there are more than one tree. But the story of the Meru people and their history and their oral traditions, you know, include so much of what we've come to know as the sort of the Hebrew story, or the Old Testament story of the history of the world. And, you know, this Meru and all these surrounding mountains, including of course the big one here, Kilimanjaro, are surrounded by the most phenomenal watercourses. You know, now I'll just show you this Lake Victoria here is 400 kilometers across. Yeah, there are other massive water bodies. This one here is about 600 kilometers in length. Sorry if you're not, I'm not showing you that, but that's, you know, these are massive bodies of water surrounding these here. So you've got the ocean, of course, and don't you love this bulging, kind of strangely bulging earth? I haven't used this Google thing for a while, but it is rather laughable how much bend we're supposed to have on a body of water this size. So, you know, if you were a tribal person from a long time ago, and you were surrounded by these massive bodies of water, is another 300 or 400 kilometer stretch of water, then your world, you know, would be limited to this area here. What is it? There is as I said, the Great Rift Valley, and there is also, interestingly, there is also the Serengeti, which the plains of the Serengeti are known to be incredibly fertile. Yeah? This Uganda, you know, there's massive amount of water all around here. Very fertile part of the world, but also very violent, because some entity has ensured that these beautiful people, and I've spent quite a lot of time in Africa, and in my experience, African people left to their own devices are beautiful, soulful, ancient people. You know, bring them to capitalism and perhaps push them to fight for food and so on, and perhaps they can become, like all of us, can become altered, psychologically altered by that. But in the main, these people have lived in this region here. Urusha is the name of the national park, but it's hiding a secret. Possibly. And the Meru people are of this region. Yes, they may have been corralled into a town, into a suburb, and into cities and so on in the modern world, but back in the day, people would have traveled around this region with ease. So I'm going to keep it short like that, and thank you to Niven and Dick and all the other contributors, Gracie, and there's others, and I'm sorry if I'm not naming that you now, but all of that will fall into place in due course. We've been kept away from this part of the world in the main. It's interesting that the royals would come here. There's Queen Elizabeth National Park around here. There's the royals have been coming here for many a year, as it seems, and surprisingly, Willie and his wife came here to get married. So I mean, if they know these secrets, if they know this stuff, then he would have brought his wife to this place to show and connect to something. I mean, these are when you look at the name of these places, they are the place of the gods, and the roof of the world, and all these sorts of things. So. And it's not actually that far from once you go. Once you're in Lake Victoria, sorry. Once you're in Lake Victoria, in this area, then we're on our way to Egypt. There's rivers and so on that lead you into Egypt, into the Middle East, and the Nile, and so this is it's not a stretch to suggest that people left, or information left this region here and made its way north. I've got the whole thing upside down, haven't I? I'm assuming that everything's upside down. How do we actually know anymore whether the north, as we're given it, where England is and Europe is actually north of anything, really? It's all of that can because if we're not working to a magnetic mountain in the middle of this North Pole, Cat, if you don't mind, if there isn't a North Pole black rock, let me see. I've got a nice picture of Mount Meru's crater here. Look at that, the hole in the center of the earth. Imagine if you were a simple folk. And you came across this, or you were, you knew of this, the hole in the center of the earth, because for them this was the center of their world, right? For the Meru people, this was the center of their world, and there is a great hole in it. So why not? Why could this not be where the center is? And that means, yes, this idea that there's a magnetic rock that we're pointing to, that could be a load of bollocks. The compasses might well be working on a completely different magnetic field or a different force that's within the torus of our system. Okay, so you've got to keep those sorts of things, those sort of sacred cows, where there has to be this black rock at the center of a thing that's at the center of this disc, that we have to be willing to let go of, or at least set aside for now, because we've mapped the big mountains on Earth, and I can't see why there would be something grander than Kilimanjaro or Everest or whatever that we've never seen sight of. That is fiction, my friends. That is gravity. So, what else have I got here? That's just another picture from another angle, obviously, of the crater. And, it's all black and it's all dark and it's all, it's all amazing. I think my thing is frozen. Dang. My picture is frozen for some reason. Sorry about that. Let me just see if I can't refresh it. Yeah, that's rather frustrating. I'm trying to show you some new stuff, and for some reason this thing won't. Just give me a second.